Jorge Valdes was the U.S. head of a group that would eventually become the Medellin drug cartel. He had millions and lived a very lavish lifestyle, but he had an inner sense of corruption that would not escape him. Until one day, his crossroads took him to the true source of fulfillment. Today, he is sharing a message of hope and redemption that can change our world.
You can buy the book. All the proceeds go to my wife's retirement account. No. I'm not politically correct. I'm not as smart as all the speakers that we've had before, which means that I'm most likely going to say something that will piss somebody off here today. Now, in 2010, I quit speaking. I went through a huge deal in my life, and I quit speaking. And the other day, all that matters is how real you are. And that's the problem that we have today. Well, 20 years ago, a few days ago, I was standing addressing Congress. And I was asked, do you think, Dr. Valdes, that the drug problem in America has created the breakup of the American family? I said, no, sir, you're totally wrong. The breakup of the American family has created a drug problem in America. I'm not as smart as you people. I thank God I got my best friend from high school, Steve, is here with us, and my pitching from my baseball team, Peter, and they'll tell you, I was not that smart in school. In America, when you meet someone, the first thing you ask about is what? Where did you go to school? Right? So your identity is based upon your education. So I used to get asked all the time, where did you go to school, Dr. Valdes? I said, well, I went to University of Miami in my teens, graduated at 20. Then I had a radical transformation. Then I went to Wheaton College because, I was evangelical, and they told me that Jesus went to Wheaton College. So I went to Wheaton College, and it's been, I met my wife there 23 years ago, which is a miracle. Then I decided I said to myself, well, I'm really not good at marriage. I had 2 broken marriages. They both lasted 2 years total. Thank God this one's 23. I have 4 kids. I really started out by not wanting any. So I adore my kids. So I'm like, I checked the marriage box off, the kid box. I'm going to be a monk. I'm going to be a noblate. And that was it. I'm going to be the greatest theologian. So then I applied and to Loyola to get a PhD. And then I said, and then I tell people, I said, but really my greatest theological training came in Yale. And they're like, man, that's a smart Cuban, man. I mean, look, Yale, Ivy League. I said, no. Jail, federal prison, 10 years. So anyways, and that's what I was going to do. So I went to school. I did excellent in school. At the age of 17, I went to work for the Federal Reserve Bank in Miami. I was the youngest employee in the history of the bank. At the age of 18, I was a bank auditor, and I had a tremendous future. I went to school at the University of Miami full-time, and I worked at the bank full-time. I had no social life. It didn't matter to me because I had one goal in life. I wanted to live the American dream. I wanted to reach the American dream. Because if I reach the American dream, like all of us believe, once we do, we're happy. We're full. We're satisfied. So it does not matter to me what gets in the way. Sleep does not matter. Girls does not matter. I'm focused. I'm going for it. At the age of 20, I'm graduating from the University of Miami. And my accounting professor says, hey, come work for me. I just came from Michigan. I unfortunately do not speak the language. We do know that Spanish is the language of heaven, right? So we left Cuba at the age of 10. My father was very wealthy, did not want to leave Cuba. What for? He was 40 years old, had everything in the world, yet he was a man of unbelievable morals. He was my role model, my idol. My mother was the total opposite. All of a sudden, I see my father crying and my mother crying. My mother comes in and grabs my hand and says, take your brother and sister to Miami. I'll see you one day. I'm shocked. I'm 10, but I'm going to live my life the way that my father taught me. Son, you work hard. You sacrifice. You will succeed. And above all, hear this. If you hear anything else, if you ever decide to tell your children something, and I know that a lot of us already have grown children, but I got good news for you. You think that we won this battle? Listen to me. There's grandchildren coming. The battle is getting worse than ever. We spend so much time debating over one political party or another one. I wish we could spend a little bit of that fighting for the soul of our children, which is the most important gift besides our faith that God has ever given. Why? Because our children, according to Abraham Lincoln, will be the future of the world. They will be the next president, senators, politically. They will define what is life and not life. But we're not worried about that. We're worried about who's sitting at the White House or not. We're teaching our kids the wrong thing. We want our kids to go to the greatest school, the greatest Ivy League university. I do too. And I'm not saying that's not important. And I'm not saying that it's not important to make money. If you guys don't make no money, the leaders are going to be pissed at you. So it is important. But the most important thing of all is, where is your priority? Within 6 months, I was U.S. head of all operations for that group that will become the Medellin drug cartel. I was making between $1 million and $3 million a month. Now imagine how shocked I was. Here was this honest student. I never did drugs in my life. I never smoked. All the alcohol I ever drank in my life up to the point will be about that much. To find out that I'm working for drug dealers. It was such a shock that it lasted for about 5 seconds. Because that's how quickly I was able to tell myself, like we tell ourselves all the time, hey, George, chill out, man. You're an accountant. You're not breaking any laws. You're counting money. You thought that's what you went to school for. That's up to them, whatever they do. Because we live in a world right now that materialism rules. And if you got leaders that have influence over many, many leaders, that's how you change society. The question is, how much guts do you have? I go to a party and I see a federal judge that gave people horrendous sentence for marijuana, snorting cocaine, and I said to myself, there is no God in America, and darn it, there is no morals either. So therefore, whatever I do, I do. You see, for a while now, they were bothering me. They wanted me to head all operations in the United States. I'm 20 years old. I used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in bodyguards. And Miami got to be a really rough place. Just a little pause. Anyways, so my dad used to say every morning, and I can see it just as clearly as today, son, in life you only have control of one thing, and that is your word. Only you can give it, only you can break it. Perhaps listening to that so much, at the age of 23, I laid in the floor of a Panamanian prison being beat to death, to the point that I bled for 5 years every time I went to the bathroom, because I refused to break my word. Because my dad told me that's all I had. Truth, people, matters. If truth does not matter, it doesn't matter what we believe. We can believe whatever we want, because truth is all truth. Whatever's good for me is good for you. Truth matters. And I don't need the Bible to tell me what is moral, what is right, what is truth. God's put that in us from creation. So I live my life. I work very hard. All I knew was that the second day we were in Miami, after I got off semi-shocked, I found the answer to my life. I saw my cousin come in a 1966 GTO, candy apple red and white. And I said to myself, wow, my cousin's only been here 5 years. He already has this? I never seen something like that. I met the American dream. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to sacrifice. And one day I'm going to own a bunch of Corvettes, because I was a Corvette addict. So, and that's the American dream. And that's the American dream that we meet and see every day of our lives. And that's the American dream. So I thought I loved Corvettes, right? So one day I get a phone call, and I get this phone call from a dealer where I buy my car. I say, hey, George, the convertibles just came in. Man, I thought it was like my communion, my bar mitzvah. I got the best perfume. I told my bodyguards, just get 300 grand out of the case. We go out there, and I'm going to go, because now I'm going to be happy. See, I had all this Mercedes and all that, but somehow something was missing. I was happy for about a day or two after I bought it. Then I was empty. So I went in there, but then it was a shock. I looked around, and think about it. Now, think carefully. My happiness depends on that Corvette. I got to buy the right one. but they got different colors. So what the heck can you do? Well, I thank God I got accounting training and I had a little logic, so I just bought one of each color. And people say, what is the hardest decision you make every day? I said, stupid. What color car am I going to drive? But, shortly thereafter, I wasn't happy. Then I realized all of a sudden, they come to me now, we're making $1 to $3 million a month. My personal profit, we're doing $100 million a month. Okay? So I'm still in search of that American dream because the more I got, the emptier I had. And I couldn't figure it out. And people would look at me and say, George, it's got to be great to be you. And I'm like, no, it's not. But things began to change drastically because, see, before I got arrested, my mother did not know what I did. She thought I was an international businessman. And I had a lot of legitimate business people. Miami used to be nothing but a little dead, sleepy town for old people to go and retire and die. Drug dealers, we built Miami into what it is today. So at least, look back and thank us for something. No. But now she knew. Now she knew. And boy, I'm telling you, the fury came out. So never stopped visiting me in jail, every visit. Never mentioned nothing about what I did. But when I got out, after 6 years, she's like, I'm going to tell you, you destroyed us. We work hard to give you an education. Because you see, you sit here today, you don't think that what you see in the street, that your child can become a drug dealer. You don't think that your child can be charged with murder. You don't think, because you all have nice, wonderful homes. I did. I had no excuse. I had the most moral home. I had the most Catholic mother you could ever identify. I had a great education. But there was one thing that happened. I fell in love with the American dream. The same way that we as fathers that have made some affluence in this country are selling to our kids. That we're allowing the billboards. See, back when I came from Cuba, there was only billboards. Now, we have nothing but every message. If you get this, you're going to be happy. If you get this, if you get this, if you get this. We make idols out of despicable people. We admire the most despicable human beings you see. So I got out and I was angrier than before. Still ran part of the cartel from prison. Made same amount of money. Didn't spend as much. My mother would not give up. And no matter how the news said that her son was the biggest drug dealer in the world, my mother said, nah, he's the same child I brought into the world, and my God will change him. Because my mother learned one thing, and this is critical for us. We got to teach our kids where true north is. And they might deviate no matter what we do. They might deviate, but if they do, they're going to come back because they know what true north was, as I did. See, my question to you today, as a crowd here, if today each and every one of us was to stand trial for being a Christian, will there be enough evidence to convict us? So now, did my life change? Did angels and whistles and all that the Bible taught? Maybe they don't do that for Cuban. They do that for Irish people, So I didn't hear the bells. But, I started to really feel a little different. I started to really begin to have a conscience. Whatever I did before, there was no conscience. It didn't matter. Just what we do. But for the first time in my life, with nothing, not knowing if I was going to die, not knowing if I see my kids get married, nothing. Somehow I knew it was going to be all right. And how did I know that? I have no clue. All I knew was that had I not confessed the sin in my heart, he would not have listened. And the fact that I came clean, I knew I didn't have to testify because no one could statute of limitations had run out. But the fact that I'm here telling these agents everything about my life before God and telling the world what a scum I was, everything I ever done, it just felt like the Lord left of me. The problem with our children is we think that we have troubled kids. No, we do not. The crime is to see children growing up in a troubled home where the parents are absent. You see, in the old days, the true American dream was when an immigrant came to America, he worked hard, he provided for his family an education, retired, and lived a decent life, a godly life. A World War II father who had marriage problems, but divorce was not an option. Hated the war, but to serve was an honor. Rather come to work an hour earlier than a minute late. His word was his bond. He didn't idolize athletes or these people. No, they idolized God. And they put God at the center of their homes. So for us, as fathers, we've changed the American dream. And I'm telling the world, there's a lot of people here with a lot of money. I don't know how many of you all at the age of 23 was making $3 million or the equivalent of $20 million a month today. But I did. I had everything the world had to offer. And I had a little more than many people with a lot of money. I had the power of life and death. I had the power where presidents at the age of 23 used to get and kneel before me. I had no fear. I'm going to tell you, the American dream we're selling to our kids is dead. There is no American dream. We're going to die in a search to reach the summit. And at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you that if you want to know something amazing about God and to understand the beauty of God, you got to go to visit 3 places. Go to a hospital and see the preciousness of life. Go to a prison and see how precious freedom is. And go to a cemetery and see how precious life is. Because today, the floor you are walking is going to be the ceiling you're going to be laying under. And at the end of the day, ask yourself, all those zeros mean nothing in glory if you can't take your children to heaven. Because our only mission in life is not to make all this money, to make all this power. Our only mission in life is to get our children to heaven. Because when the pages of history are written, my question is, will history remember your name? I can ask my young children today about Carnegie, all those people. They have no clue. But you know what they do know? They do know Mother Teresa. So my message to America now is, before they fall in love with your church, which they can't help to once they fall in love with its maker, Jesus. Get your kids, let your kids see a Jewish carpenter whose love is so big because the most hardened of all hearts will respond to unconditional love. These kids are too smart. Let's not waste all the time that we're wasting. You talk about the family. The family is so broken. And once the family is broken, there is no help or hope for America. Our only hope is that somehow we can go back to basics and introduce our kids again to this Jewish carpenter who looked at me and said, George, I don't care how scum you are. I died for you. May God bless you.